1. Before I begin, I'd like to state that I have always been interested in the paranormal, even though I tend to freak myself out. I approach all things logically, and try to find reasons when something strange happens. My mother is from Vietnam and a Buddhist, so she believes in spirits, the afterlife, etc. And she's seen plenty of ghosts and spirits back home. There are many pictures that we took in my living room when I was in high school that had multiple orbs in them, which I attributed to the shrine my mother has set up in the living room, which honors her late parents and siblings. I never felt threatened or whatnot, since I figured they were just my grandparents, aunt and uncle watching over us. Anyways, on to my experiences. I lived above the garage for a few years while I was in college. The floor would shake if you walked somewhat heavily on it, so you could tell if someone was walking up on you. There have been a few instances where I would be sitting at my desk and could feel the floor shaking as if someone was coming up behind me. Once it was a legitimate earthquake. That was cool. I would always end up spinning around in my chair or quickly glancing over my shoulder to see if anyone was there, but alas, nothing. I always shrugged it off, trying not to think too much about it. I've read a few stories from people on here about feeling something in their bed. This has happened a few times as well. I'll be sitting or laying in bed, then it would feel like someone would sit at the edge of my bed or be standing in the middle of it. I peeled the covers back a few times but never saw anything. Again, figured it was family spirits, so I would brush it off. This was really the extent of my paranormal experiences, until I started my current job. I currently work at a local gym, and have been at the same one for the past 3.5 years. When I started, I worked in the morning shift from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m., and my girlfriend at the time worked 4 to 10 p.m., and had to close on the weekends. Now I can't remember exactly what brought it up, but I was standing at the front desk with my manager at the time, who I'll call M, and my co-worker A. M was telling us that he was randomly watching the security camera feed from his work laptop at his house one night, and he spotted something, some sort of shadow, dart from the physical therapy office through their waiting room and towards the back door. But he never saw the door open. After he mentioned that, my co-worker, A, told us that something strange happened to him when he was opening the gym one morning. He had just turned the main lights on and was doing a walkthrough of the free weight area, which has giant mirrors mounted all along the walls. When he said he looked up towards the mirror that showed the physical therapy waiting room door behind him, he said he saw an old woman standing in the doorway, wearing what he said looked like a grey jumpsuit with pink stripes down the sides and had long grey hair. He said he thought maybe a member snuck in somehow, but the front doors were still locked, since we hadn't officially opened for the day, and the physical therapy office was closed on the weekends. He then quickly turned around and looked at the doorway, but nothing was there. He was shocked. Now, A is what I would call a man's man, and very religious, and he was generally shaken up while telling us, so I had no reason to doubt him. M as well. After hearing that, M told us that when he used to open, he would hear footsteps running on the rubber floor all the way to the back of the gym. Up to this point, I hadn't experienced anything myself. My girlfriend Kay was the only closer Friday to Sunday, and since the area we work in isn't the safest, I would always help her close. I remember the very first experience I had was when we were doing a walkthrough of the men's locker room after closing. We were at the very back of the room when all of a sudden we heard this massive crash, as if someone had taken a full stack of weights on one of the machines right outside of the locker rooms, just to let go and let them slam down. We both physically jumped, and she asked, "Is there somebody still in here?" To which I replied, "Absolutely not, I just walked through and locked the door behind the last member." I I slowly walked out to the main area to see if somebody was still in the gym. Nobody. We immediately left. The next incident is by far the scariest thing that has ever happened to me. My girlfriend was at the desk closing the register, so I went to turn off the movie in the cardio cinema. It's a dark room with treadmills, stationary bikes, and elliptical machines, and the movie plays on a wall from a projector with full surround sound. I remember we were playing Anchorman, and it was during the scene where all the news teams fight each other. I remember it vividly because what happened next scared the living shit out of me. I had just turned off the Blu-ray player and was in the process of switching off the subwoofers. As I bent down to switch off the sub on the opposite side of the room, something made a raspy, groaning, moaning noise over my left shoulder and into my ear. It probably lasted about 3 to 4 seconds, and sounded like an older woman straining to lift something or trying to squeeze out a poop or something along those lines. I froze briefly, then spun around to see if Kay was behind me. Nothing. I immediately started to come up with some sort of logical explanation for the noise. Was it the sound system? No, I literally just turned it off. Was it someone in the free weight area groaning unbelievably loud? Perhaps. I ran out of the cinema up to the front desk where Kay was. I asked, "Did anyone just groan really loud in the free weight area?" No," she replied. So I asked her if she could stand on the other side of the wall of the cinema and mimic the noise I heard. I could hear her from inside the cinema where I was, but it definitely wasn't as loud or clear as the noise I had just heard. I've never felt so scared in my life. I couldn't come up with a logical explanation for what had just happened. It still gives me chills when I think about it. Kay was transferred to another gym shortly after, so I didn't have any other experiences for a while. The ghost never showed up during the daytime shift, as far as I know. These events happened between fall 2013 to summer 2014. Fast forward to summer 2015. Up until this point, I went from the morning shift to opening on Sundays, was finishing school, then moved to the graveyard shift, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And yes, people do come in that late to work out. I now work with my old co-worker, A, for an hour on Monday and Tuesday nights, shift overlap. I jokingly asked if he ever saw the old lady again, and he responds with, "Well, I haven't seen her, but I experienced some weird things." He goes on to tell me that when he would open the gym on Saturdays, he could hear the cinema going on full blast, subs and everything. He said he figured the closer forgot to turn off the movie, so he would walk back to the cinema, and as soon as he would open the door, everything would stop. The DVD player wasn't on, the sound system was off, subs, everything. And this would happen every other weekend or so. Naturally, that freaked me out, since I experienced some weird stuff in the cinema as well. And because I have to switch out the movie every night, I wear my earbuds every time I go in there nowadays. We had a new employee, C, listening to our stories, and when A told the story about seeing the woman in the free weight area, he started to freak out. He told us one weekend he had to close with one of our female trainers, and neither of them had a key to lock the front door. So the trainer walked out the front door, and C locked it behind her. He was walking to the back storeroom along the cinema wall to leave out of the loading bay when he said he caught something out of the corner of his eye in the free weight area. Since the main lights were off, the only light was the backlit logo of our gym that was behind him, and it reflected off of the mirrors in the free weight area across the gym. He said you could see a figure curling something, as if someone was curling dumbbells or something along those lines. He quickly ran to the back door and left, but never said anything because he thought we'd think he was crazy. I put it out of my mind, but every once in a while I think to myself, I wonder where the ghost is. Ask and you shall receive. One night I was especially tired. Working the graveyard shift during the week took some crazy adjusting, since I tried to keep a normal schedule on the weekends, to hang out with friends, etc. I remember that I was cleaning the floor on our Zamboni thing and kept dozing off and bumping into things, so I said, fuck it, and I parked it to charge. Then, as I was walking back towards the locker rooms, I caught a shadow moving in one of our training rooms. The tanning beds are in the rooms that run from the front desk to the locker rooms. I backtracked a few steps and saw this shadow moving back and forth on the wall. I then look up and see the hanging lights moving back and forth. Now the overhanging lights are about 10 or so feet off the ground, and they hang down from the ceiling. I tried to find a logical explanation as to why the lights were swinging. There were only 2 other people in the gym, and they were down in our new free weight area on the other side of the gym. Even if one of them did come up to the tanning bed, why would they walk into that tanning bed, jump up and hit a light? And even if they did jump up and hit it, it wouldn't be swinging that uniformly. I couldn't come up with a reasonable answer. The next few experiences weren't as freaky, but it still makes my skin crawl. These next few things all happened after we renovated and added a childcare area to the gym. The first thing to happen was the lights in the kids' basketball court turning on. Childcare area was locked. The only key was in my pocket. Lights to the basketball court turn on. Lights are motion activated. Sensors in the ceiling outside the court, so nobody outside could have triggered them by simply walking by. Another night, I was up at the desk watching something on my tablet. I looked up and could see that the lights in the women's bathroom and the kids' club mysteriously turned on. Those are motion activated as well. Door was locked, shrugged it off thinking, if you gotta go, you gotta go. The most recent thing happened last week, nothing too big. I had just finished my workout and was changing in the kids' club's women's bathroom. They have a mirror in there, the men's doesn't. I had just finished combing my hair and was at the sink, rinsing off my comb and washing my hands when, all of a sudden, the toilet in the handicap stall at the far end of the bathroom flushes. You guessed it, motion activated. I was nowhere near the stall, and the door to the stall was completely closed. That made me jump a little. She also likes to turn on our bottle filler at the water fountain. It's motion activated as well. At this point, I'm accustomed to the small experiences, so I really don't mind them as much. I know the ghost or spirit at my job isn't mean or violent. I just figured she was trying to get her swole on. Pumping iron in the afterlife. #respect. 2. I've been living with my boyfriend for nearly 6 months. Over the amount of time, I've experienced some things that have made me feel uneasy being here. Now, I don't think that our home is haunted, as we live in a trailer that is around 10 years old. But it's possible the land we are on could have some sort of paranormal presence. My first experience was when our friend Jeff was still living with us. I used to stay in the bedroom a lot, due to me not really wanting to be around Jeff. He was the type who would play video games and scream loudly at the TV. He was a very loud person, so I could only handle being around him in little doses. Well, he would get home late at night when my boyfriend and I were asleep, so I wouldn't see him until I awoke the following day. We had developed some sort of routine, where I would be awake in the bedroom, and when I heard him go into the living room, I'd go out there, sit on the couch, and we'd talk for a bit. One morning I took a shower, and laid on the bed and started going through my notifications. I only had a t-shirt on. There was a loud knocking at the bedroom door. I yelled, "Hold on," and hurried and got dressed. Then I opened the door and no one was there. So I ventured down the hallway to the living room, and no one was there either. So I went to Jeff's bedroom and was going to knock when I noticed the door was open and no one was inside. I texted Jeff a simple, "Hey," Then after about 10 minutes I decided to call him. He answered with a groggy voice, "What?" "Hey, why didn't you wait when I said hold on?" There was a pause and then he goes, "What the hell are you talking about?" I then say, "You knocked at our bedroom door this morning and I told you to hold on a sec, and when I got out of the room you were gone, so why didn't you wait?" He then replies, "Wasn't me. I spent the night at my grandmother's last night and haven't been home. In fact, when you called me, you just woke me up." "Oh, that's weird. Well, I'll let you go for now." When I checked the front door lock, and it was locked in place, and I didn't think much on the incident. And when I mentioned it to my boyfriend later that day, he told me it was probably the cat making some noise that sounded like knocking to me. 2 months passed, and Jeff had moved out. Then one night I had a weird dream that didn't really seem like a dream. Well, in the dream I had awoken in the middle of the night and saw the cat at the foot of the bed, staring at our closet. I had decided to look in the closet to see what she was staring at. As I went towards the closet to pull the chain for the light, there was a loud screaming sound. I ran back to the bed and covered my face and closed my eyes. I had a weird feeling telling me I should absolutely not open my eyes no matter what. So I kept them shut, and the bad feeling eventually goes away, and I fall asleep. A bit of time passes and I awaken to the sound of the shower running in our bathroom. We have the master bedroom. I found it a bit odd because my boyfriend showers every night, and I have never seen him shower in the morning. My eyes are still closed, but I hear the shower and feel the light from the bathroom on me. I have a weird feeling, so I yell out, "Babe, are you showering?" No answer. Then a moment later I hear, "Come get in with me." So then I ask, "Why are you showering so early?" "Come get in here." I have a very uneasy feeling, so I keep my eyes shut tight and roll over and feel my boyfriend laying in bed, snoring right next to me. I don't really sleep after that. I just wait for his alarm to go off and then I shake him awake, still afraid to open my eyes. After I explain to him what happened, he tells me I have the craziest dreams. But it didn't seem like a dream, and I don't know how to explain that. Well, the feelings of uneasiness went away for about a month or two, but recently they came back, and they are much worse. I do not know how to explain it, but once he wakes up and leaves, I feel scared. One morning he had left for work. He leaves around 5 a.m. He leaves fairly early, so it is still dark outside. I couldn't sleep, so I took a shower and crawled into bed with the laptop to watch some Netflix. There was a loud knocking at the door of the house, so loud it had made me jump. Now, it's a weird hour for anyone to be at the door, and the neighborhood we live in, there's about 10 houses, and most of our neighbors wouldn't be out at this hour. I locked the bedroom door and locked myself in the bathroom and called him on my cell phone. He answers and I ask him to call his mum and ask if it was her at the door. He hangs up and about 2 minutes later calls me back and says it wasn't her. She was asleep until he called. She calls me about 10 minutes later, and I'm so creeped out, I go next door and decide to spend the day with them. I'm paranoid sometimes. That evening I'm on the phone with my boyfriend after he gets off work, and I'm changing my clothes and have him on speakerphone. I ask him, "When will you be home?" and the phone begins screeching loudly. Being on speakerphone, I'm sure the sound, whatever it was probably making his phone go berserk too. So I hang up and run to the door, again not wanting to stay in the house. When I went inside, my face must have revealed too much, because I scared my boyfriend's mum. After explaining to her, I decided to stay over there till he got home. It's been about a month since that incident, and I wasn't feeling so bad until recently. Now I cannot fall asleep until way late in the evening, early morning. Sometimes 3 a.m., knowing my boyfriend wakes up at 4 a.m., and after he leaves I check all the locks in the house and arm the door alarm, then lock myself in the bedroom with all the lights on. He notices my strange behavior and says it's because I've been reading too many things about the deep web and watching too many horror movies. But I have always been into scary things. Nothing strange has happened recently, but I have this scared feeling that keeps me from sleeping until well into the day, when it's daylight, and I know his mum is awake next door. Even when I do fall asleep, it's only for a couple of hours at a time. I'm scared. I'm sitting here typing this with the bedroom, bathroom, and closet lights on, and even now I am so terrified but scared to lay down. What do I do? Am I going insane? 3. My husband and I moved into our apartment at the end of October, and everything seemed normal up until about a week ago. Maybe this has been happening prior to a week ago, but we just started noticing things. We have a small lamp in our front room that sits behind our sectional and is plugged into a power strip, surge protector, so we can easily turn it off and on using the power button on the surge protector. Every night we turn the lamp off when it's time to go into our bedroom to sleep. The surge protector sits on top of the sectional, free from any interference. We usually keep a light on above our oven in the kitchen, so we can see our way around if we need to let the dogs out or use the bathroom, etc. Our apartment isn't very large, so one light is enough to illuminate pretty much the entire apartment. The other night my husband decided to turn all the lights off in the apartment, because one of our dogs has been frequently getting up in the middle of the night for various reasons, usually to grab a snack or get a drink of water. We thought maybe if it's completely dark and less inviting to get up, he'd be more likely to sleep through the night. The reason I mention this is because my husband made a point to tell me he was doing this, so I'd know what's going on with it being pitch black in the apartment that night. We go to bed and everything is normal, up until my husband got up to use the bathroom a few hours later, and noticed that the lamp in the front room was turned on. He actually woke me up to ask if I had turned it on, and I had not. After using the bathroom, my husband walked over and turned the lamp off again. By the time we got up in the morning and went back out into the living room, the light was back on again. The following day we did our normal routine of shutting down the TV and lights and going to bed. And as soon as my husband shut the door to our bedroom, we heard the power button on the surge protector click, and sure enough the lamp had turned itself back on again. This is the moment I realized that I'm certain something is going on. The first night I was skeptical about it because I like to try to rationalize things and thought maybe my husband made a mistake and didn't realize he'd turned the light on or something. But this time I heard the click. I heard that lamp turn itself on while my husband was standing right in front of me inside of our room. He opened the door, and it was on, and I know he turned it off. 110% sure of it. Since then, we have been unplugging the lamp from the surge protector completely, because my husband is extremely freaked out by this. He doesn't even want to talk about it at all. Since becoming aware of our potential guest, I have been taking note of other things such as our older dog barking at seemingly nothing, sometimes standing in the corner of the room and barking. Sometimes he just stares at the walls in an unusual way. We've also had the door to our guest room slam shut on its own. We hear noises at night that sound like things moving around or falling as well. Over the weekend, my husband lost his car keys and I found them under the nightstand when we always put our keys in the key bowl. What prompted me to turn to you guys for your opinion is because tonight we were watching TV in the living room. I heard a loud noise in our bedroom to find that one of the pictures hanging on our wall on my side of the room had fallen off. It's getting more difficult to rationalize these things. Also yesterday, my husband had thought I had said something to him while we were laying down on the couch together, when I had said nothing at all. I believe he could have heard our potential guest trying to communicate with him. He's the most freaked out over all of this. I just want to know what's going on and see if there's anything I can do to help. I tried to mention to him that if there is something going on, that we should try to see what we can do before things escalate. But as I have mentioned before, he doesn't want to talk about anything to do with it. So far with what has happened, do you think there's potential for it to be something paranormal? What should I do about it? There's no reasonable explanation for the power button on the surge protector to turn itself on without assistance, right? 4. Personal background. Family is Cambodian American. Escaped from the Khmer Rouge genocide in the 1980s before coming to the US. Parents and older siblings have witnessed countless atrocities, mass killings, and torture before emigrating to the US. Mom is a Buddhist. Dad seems agnostic, he doesn't speak much about religion. Sister is, Christian. Brother explored Hinduism, and I'm agnostic. You can probably tell when it comes to religion, we keep to our own. Haunted house in question is in San Francisco in the Richmond district. Events happened between 1990 to 2003. We moved in 2004. We were poor and we actually stayed in this 2-bedroom small basement apartment for a family of 7. Summary. It was undeniably one of the most haunted places. The ghosts and spirits there were extremely bold. It didn't matter what time of day it is, whether it's day or night, whether there were multiple witnesses or the family was together eating dinner. It will do its thing. Usual high-activity haunting activities on an almost daily basis. TVs turning on and off, faucets turning on and off, doors slamming, water containers falling off the kitchen counter. There were multiple spirits, we were certain of this. Several family members, specifically my mom, dad, brother, and myself, have seen them. But when they described how they look, they were different. You could also just feel their different personalities and energies. Parents' room has giant sliding closet mirrors that was basically the size of an entire wall. Brother saw a pair of transparent legs while he was working on an essay late one night. One time there was a blackout. Little sister and I saw a glowing ball of light just floating in mid-air, when everything else was pitch black. It lasted a fleeting 5 seconds, and we both saw it in the same location and direction. Brother sleepwalked quite often in that apartment. Most of my life as I grew up, I had very frequent recurring nightmares. Came to a point where I was hesitant to go to sleep because I knew for certain a nightmare awaits. One bright morning I was getting ready to go to school, and I finally witnessed one of the spirits. I freaked out and had to run past it to my parents' room where my mom was. Didn't go to school that day because I did not want to leave the room. And mother was okay with it. Fast forward. As I mentioned, my mom's Buddhist, so she called a monk. In fact, several monks to come and bless the apartment. She even brought these tiny mirrors to put on top of the entrance, supposedly to reflect bad spirits away. Did not help one bit. One day my parents couldn't stand it anymore and we just moved away in 2004. Not a single incident occurred after that. We're very glad it didn't follow us. My mom said to never return or even come within a block's distance because she don't want me to bring any strays to her new home. I don't believe the spirits were poltergeists or malevolent because, even though they were bold, we weren't harmed beyond the occasional scratches, claw marks at night. We lived there for over 13 years, so if it really wanted us out, we would know. Question. The main point of my post was to actually ask about doors. I know, of all things. Our bathroom door facing our living room was possessed to a new level. We eat dinner in our living room and almost every single night. The door wouldn't let us eat in peace. It would open, close, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly and loudly. It would even lock and unlock itself. We didn't even need to wait or stalk for it to happen. We can just look at it while eating dinner and see the door vibrating as if something inside it is trying to escape. From inside the bathroom, the door has wood age lines which resembles a full-sized human. Except the head was cone-shaped, not sure why. It's hard to believe this was just a coincidence of nature. The wood age lines were so distinct. You could see every part of the body, including the hand and fingers, both sides. There were other age line patterns in the wood, such as butterflies all across. The scariest thing that has ever happened to me was when I had to use the restroom at around 3 a.m. one night, and I couldn't hold it in. I left the door slightly open in anticipation. The door scared me, so I preferred it not to be closed sometimes. And while I was on the toilet, it slammed, shut and locked, from inside by itself. I could see all of this right in front of me while I was sitting. Still a little traumatized from that experience to this day. Anyway, if anyone knows anything about wooden age lines and how it relates to supernatural and paranormal possibilities, please let me know. I forgot about all of this until recently, and would really like to find out the nature of this crazy door. 5. So before I get started, I should note that I used to be part of a paranormal investigation team that would take requests from people in my state looking for answers or evidence to paranormal activity that they were experiencing in their homes. I went on at least 15 of these, but this was about 8 years ago, and I'm not sure if that has anything to do with this or not, but thought I should mention it. Okay, so the first time I experienced this was a couple years ago. I was at my house alone watching TV in the living room when I heard what I could only describe as a 16-pound bowling ball being dropped from the height of my ceiling and landing on the floor in my bedroom, which is located about 30-ish feet down a hallway from the living room. The noise, bang, was so intense I literally felt the entire floor and house shake. My first instinct was someone just broke in my house through one of my bedroom windows, so I grabbed my pistol and went to investigate and was almost certain I was going to find someone. Nothing. Not only did I not find anyone, I did not find anything that could have caused the very loud bang and vibrations I heard and felt. For the next couple of weeks after this, I would hear what sounded like footsteps going up and down the wooden steps to my basement, and also less intense thumps coming from my room, which is upstairs. The footsteps and thumps slowly but surely subsided to nothing. Now fast forward about 1.5 years, 6 months ago. While I'm awake and actively doing something, in my room or elsewhere, I never really hear or experience anything. It only seems to begin when I lay down to go to sleep, and it almost always immediately starts the second I lay down, like whatever it is was waiting for me to lay down in bed. I usually lay down on my side, so that the orientation of sounds or noises are distorted, since one ear is sideways and the other is basically being plugged by my pillow. But the noises and taps usually start subtly, and then over the course of 10 minutes or so, get progressively louder and much more frequent, at which time I reposition myself and lay on my back so I can accurately determine where the noises are coming from. Everyone knows what it sounds like when someone is using their fingers to play the drums on their desk. Well, that's what it sounds like, except the taps and knocks sound like they're moving up and down my walls, and also coming from on top of my house, on my roof, like what you might expect to hear if Santa's reindeer actually landed on your house. And also my windows, at a decently fast pace. At first, I thought it was just some kind of animal, but I have checked my attic and found no signs of animals at all, and also outside on my snow-covered roof to check for animal prints during the time of the noises being heard. But I always find absolutely nothing. It takes quite a bit of weird shit to get me flustered, as I have experienced a lot of different things during my time as an investigator. But what happened about 3 weeks ago made me 100% positive whatever the noises are, they aren't from any animal. So I wake up in the morning, the sun beaming through my windows in my room, and I get up to use the restroom. I come back and lay back down to check my phone for any messages or missed calls. As I'm doing that, the noises I described above begin to occur again, but I ignore them. About 15 minutes later, they stop completely. Then the loudest bang and knock noise I've ever heard comes from the wall at the head of my bed, where I lay my head. It literally sounded as if this time someone threw a 16-pound bowling ball at my wall. I jumped up, a little rattled, and trying to gather my thoughts as to what caused that. And as I'm trying to think, the same banging noise happens again, but this time on the wall that the side of my bed is up against. And immediately after that, it literally sounded like a person was walking or jumping on my roof. The only rational thought at this time was someone was, for whatever reason, at 9 a.m., was vandalizing or attempting to break into my house. So I grabbed my pistol yet again and went outside very cautiously, as I had no idea what I was going to find. And as I was getting through the door, I heard the same extremely loud bang happen again, coming from the direction of my room. I step outside slowly, scanning my roof and the side of my house for any explanation to what I just heard and felt. Nothing. I walk all the way around my house. Nothing. I go back inside and try to figure out what the fuck I just heard and experienced. Also, I should note that the siding of my house is the typical plastic material, and if anything substantial slammed into the side of my house, the noise would have been much different than what I heard. It basically sounded like someone took a hammer and swung it as hard as they could at the walls right next to me. Also, these smaller knocks and taps are still happening almost every night, and I know this is not me dreaming, as I am always wide awake when I experience these noises, not even half asleep. Can anyone relate to this or give me any insight on what might be going on? Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Paranormal Stories, episode 27. Thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I'm going to cut the outro a little bit short this week on this video, because I'm running a tad behind on my usual schedule. I'll get caught up tomorrow though, it shouldn't be a problem. I also want to try and get a few videos done in advance so I can clear a few days just to be a bit of a lazy sod, to be perfectly honest with you. That's the plan, we'll see if it happens. So, I'm going to go for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.